this is a NEMA 515 outlet. And this is my Rivian R1T. And I charge this with this. Now you're probably asking me, Isaiah, what makes you think that it makes sense to charge a 135 kilowatt hour battery on a NEMA 515 outlet? And I'll tell you why I think that. It's because I'm crazy. Quick question, what would you think if someone charged a Rivian with its big battery with a normal wall outlet and a mobile charger at home?
Having done that, I don't think I could recommend that.
Like a 110?
They are doing what?
Why would you do that? And do you know how slow that's going to be?
Seriously though, part of the reason I haven't installed home charging is because I am kind of lazy, but at the same time, I don't feel like dealing with the headache of installing home charging. Now, I have enough Rivian referral points for me to buy the home charger, and then I have enough money to pay for an electrician for the labor to come install it, but I just don't feel like dealing with any of that at all. The breaker box to my home that was built in the 90s is full. We have solar panels, we have an extended addition to our home. There just isn't enough space. And I'm sure that I could split the home wall charger with the washer or, I don't know, the water heater or something, but I don't feel like dealing with any of that at all. I don't feel like dealing with the headache. And so I've opted for the laziest, easiest option, and that is a mobile charger. Now this is my setup. This is my Rivian R1T connected to an Electron mobile connector, connected to an extension cord, connected to a NEMA 515 in my garage. Now it's a pretty straightforward process. I pull up pretty close to my garage. I typically keep the mobile connector here. I will come up and I simply plug it in. It's as straightforward as that. Now, this part is usually in my garage. I have it hanging so it's off the ground from the elements and things like water. But this extension cord, it's not recommended to plug in a mobile connector to an extension cord, but I'm doing it because I can. Now, this is a 12 gauge extension cord. It's rated for continuous loads, 20 amps, 2400 watts. The mobile connector, the Rivian, is only requesting 1.5, right, at 12 amps. And so this can handle up to 20 for continuous loads. It's really meant for things like generators and large appliances. So it can handle high continuous heat and the wattage that it's requesting. And so this extension cord works just fine connected to my NEMA 515 in my garage. But again, this is usually inside my garage. Now, this is what I have at home. At school, there are level 2 chargers. I'm able to plug in there, and I'll sometimes do that if the Chevy Bolt isn't always hogging it anyway. I also have a Rivian Adventure Network DC fast charger that I will occasionally go to that provides me power if I need it. Now, it is worth mentioning that charging on a mobile charger adds about 3 miles per hour. Compare that to a level 2 home charger, that's like 25 to 45 miles an hour. And then you compare it to a DC fast charger, that's hundreds of miles an hour. So this is multitudes slower than anything else. Now, before we get into the technical specs, it's a pretty straightforward process. Most EVs at this point come with a mobile charger as standard. You just plug it into your wall. I'm assuming you have an outlet of some sort, right? Yeah. And then you plug the J1772 or NACS at this point into your vehicle, and that's it. It's a straightforward process. I think a lot of people get anxiety when it comes to owning an EV. They think they have to install home charging. They got to spend the money and the time. And a lot of people don't want to deal with that. So they end up just getting a hybrid or an internal combustion engine car because they think they need home charging. And it's wise, yes, to have home charging, but you don't need a wall charger. You don't need level 2 charging at home. Simple mobile charging does fine for most EV drivers. Welcome to Out of Spec University Home Charging 101. Now, your standard NEMA 515 outlet provides about 120 volts and 15 amps. Now, continuous energy is only allowed to pull 80% of the amperage. 80% of 15 is 12. That's where we get that 12 from. So 120 volts times 12 amps, that gives us 1,440 watts. But we're talking big batteries here, so we end up going to kilowatts, 1.44 kilowatts. I'm going to be rounding down because you have to remember energy is not created nor destroyed. It's only transferred. And with mobile chargers, they tend to be a little inefficient. A lot of energy is transferred into heat. It's also worth mentioning that I do plug in my mobile charger with an extension cord, which is not recommended, but that also means more energy would be dissipated through heat. So that means I'd be getting a little less than 1.4 kilowatts. 1.4 kilowatts, rounding down, times 12 hours of charging at home gets us about 18 kilowatt hours. Now, 18 kilowatt hours times my efficiency, I drive a Rivian R1T, so it's quite inefficient. Plus I drive like a lunatic, so it's even worse. But 18 kilowatt hours times 2.2 miles a kilowatt hour of efficiency gets us 38 miles of driving range. Now, I personally drive less than 20 miles a day. Some days that could be as much as 60. Most days it's actually less than 10, but we'll say here on average 20 miles a day. This means that I am in what we call charging surplus. I am driving less miles than the amount of miles that I'm putting on my battery, which means not only do I have extra range, the amount of range that I'm driving is totally made up with that 12 hours of charging on a mobile charger. Now, let's get into my Rivian. It has a 135 kilowatt hour battery, a gigantic battery. 18 kilowatt hours, that's the amount of energy that I was charging, divided by the 135 kilowatt hour battery, that gets us about 13% of the battery that is charged overnight, or 13% every 12 hours. In other words, 26% of the battery is charged in about 24 hours, or 1 day. That means it would take me about 3 to 4 days to fully charge my Rivian. But let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you. The average person drives less than 40 miles a day. The average EV has less than an 80 kilowatt hour battery. The average car is parked for more than 23 hours a day. This 12 hours of charging is probably a little more conservative than what you would actually be charging when you're parked. So this means mobile chargers do indeed work, because not only would your efficiency, if you're driving something like a Model 3, a Y, a Lucid Air, your efficiency would be higher, times the amount of hours that you're charging, let's just keep it the same, 18 kilowatt hours times, let's say a 3 mile a kilowatt hour efficiency, which is still actually pretty meh, but a lot better than 2.2, that would give you 54 miles of driving range for the average EV driver. That means that you would be driving 40 miles a day with 54 miles of charging. You would be in what we call a charging surplus. That means mobile chargers do in fact work. Now you're probably asking, Isaiah, what if you have a longer commute? What if you have a longer drive? What do you do? And that's where that charging surplus comes in place. You are driving less than the amount of miles that you put on your battery. And if you have the 1 to 2 days out of your week where you're going to be driving longer than your usual commute, then that surplus should be able to make up for it. My battery stays consistently between 30 and 50%. Sometimes it's as high as 80, 90%, just because of what I was doing. And usually at times like this, I won't plug in my Rivian for days until it starts hitting that 30, 40%, and then I'll plug it back in. Now you actually see right now I'm getting 1.6 kilowatts, but that typically isn't sustained, and I'm not used to it actually showing 1.6 kilowatts. It usually shows 1.4 or 1.3 for most of the time. But right now we're getting 1.6, and I'm at 88% state of charge. And you can see it's saying it's going to take me about 12 hours to get to 100%. Now it is worth mentioning, 12 hours of use at 12 amps creates a lot of heat for this NEMA 515 outlet. And that's why a lot of people don't recommend mobile chargers, because you may wear out your NEMA 515 outlet a lot quicker than how it's designed for. Now you can actually buy NEMA 515 outlets that are made specifically for EVs or high continuous load, so they can handle a lot of heat. But continued heat after years of use is going to have an effect on your NEMA 515 outlet, and it could damage it. So for legal reasons, my lawyers are telling me that I should warn you that this is maybe something you shouldn't do. Anyways, that explains the rationale as to why I charge my Rivian R1T with a NEMA 515 outlet. I know On the surface, it seems kind of crazy, but I hope you have a better understanding of why I charge my Rivian like this.